Hello. I pray that this message finds you well and that you are finding joy with your family there in your home and family that you are connected with across the community or across the country. For those of you that are connecting in on Facebook, I want to introduce myself, Pastor Rick Malik, and I'm glad that you have found us. As we celebrate Maundy Thursday tonight, that is the celebration of Jesus' last meal with his disciples as they came together to celebrate the Passover. That meal of remembrance that was directed of them by Moses. It was a meal in which they remember when Moses led them out by God's direction from the oppressor Pharaoh, from Egypt through the desert and then eventually into the promised land. That they would come into this land a new people, a people of faith, realizing that they had been delivered by God, that God had renewed them and had brought them into a new life. As the Jewish people gather this night to celebrate the second day of Passover, on the table of their Seder meal, Seder meaning order, as they hear the retelling of this story, I want to share some of the items that would be on this table. Items that can also remind us of how we come to our God this evening. On the table would be a roasted egg to remind them of the circle of life and of the life that they now are leading. Also on the table would be the shank bone. That would be a symbol of the sacrificial lamb. The lamb in which that blood was poured over and wiped over the doorpost, that the spirit would pass over and no one in that household would die. Also on the table would be the bitter herbs to remind the people how their ancestors lived in bitterness under the oppression of Pharaoh. Also would be the salt water and the sprig of a live herb that would remind them of all the tears that their ancestors shed as they suffered under Pharaoh. There would also be apple nuts, sweet wine, cinnamon, and sugar that comes together to remind them of the brick mortars in which they had to make under this oppression. And finally, there would be greens to remind them of the spring, the time in which Passover is celebrated. Jesus then builds on this message as he gathered with his disciples to have a fulfilled promise and remembrance by saying, "He is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." I share with you from the Gospel of Matthew, the 26th chapter, beginning at verse 17. On the day of the unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparation for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into a certain city and into a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says my time is near. I will keep the Passover in your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. And while they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, broke it, and gave it to his disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took the cup, and he gave thanks to you. "For this is my blood," he said to his disciples, "the blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it with you in my Father's house." And when they had sung the hymn, they went out into the garden, to the Mount of Olives. Jesus comes in place of the Lamb. Jesus replaces the tears of sadness with tears of joy. Jesus comes to bring forgiveness and hope for a people suffering and crying out. I believe this message, this act by Jesus, is most relevant for us today, friends. like the Hebrew people breaking from their captivity, like the people seeking to be released from captivity of the Roman oppressors and suffering of poverty. We feel held down today, oppressed in some way, not able to move around freely as we had always been, restricted in connecting with friends and family, shut off in so many ways. On the night of remembering, let us remember that Jesus came and is coming again to bring freedom to us, friends, to bring love, to bring embrace, that we can embrace one another, and reconciliation. Let us look at this night not as a night of depression, but one that has revealed to us hope fulfilled. I pray also that as this time passes in history, that we don't forget everything that happened here. We remember how we reached out to one another. And as our children and our children's children remember that Christ gives to us love and forgiveness, and will continue to give to all generations that love, that forgiveness, that reconciliation and hope, that we are one in God, in Christ. I look forward to you receiving this message, and I also invite you to look forward to a message tomorrow evening as we recognize and as we celebrate Good Friday. Please pass this message on. Forward the email that you received this link. Direct your friends and family to go to our Facebook page and invite them to hear this message as well. I also ask you, friends, to invite your family and friends on Sunday to our Easter celebration. I believe it will be one of the best Easter celebrations that we have ever had. And I look forward to it, and I hope that you are as well. Go to our Facebook page and invite others as well. Have a blessed night this Maundy, Thursday. God bless you.